I'm not entirely sure how, but I somehow managed to complete my TBR in the month of March. Hi everyone, my name is Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is my reading wrap up for the month of March. March was a weird month. If you've watched any of my vlogs, you know that I have not had the best sort of time personally, well, work-wise actually, but it's been a difficult month, and it definitely put me in a slump in the sort of last week of the month, or the penultimate week of the month. It was just a difficult time, let's put it that way. And yeah, I really thought I would not finish my TBR this month. Miraculously, I managed to read everything on my TBR, MASH TBR, on the last day of the month. I managed to finish it. I have left one book that I'm halfway through, and I really hate doing that. So I'm just going to talk about that first actually, because it's not included in my stats, it's not included in this wrap up. It will be in next month's wrap up because I am hoping to finish it tomorrow. It is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I have an arc of it. It's one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I am 20% into it at the minute in the ebook. I started reading it and then the difficult stuff started happening and it really just put me in a bad headspace, and although I was enjoying it, I wasn't enjoying it as much as I hoped I would, and it was more because of my headspace on the book itself. So I thought I would put it to one side, read some other things, I actually didn't read for a while, then read some other things, and now I'm kind of going to go back into it with fresh eyes instead. So those pages that I've read for that aren't included in any of the stats on here, but I just wanted to mention it because I did read a little bit of it. I am, like I said, really enjoying it, and hopefully I really enjoy it when I end up finishing it. But moving on from that, let's look at the actual stats for the month. So I finished a total of 8 books during the month of March, which is obviously still a decent amount, but I'm progressively getting lower and lower as the year goes on. I started with 11, then I read 9, and then I read 8. I was on track to read like at least 10 books this month, and I really thought I could do it. I was feeling like I was having a good reading month, and then things just happened. So I am a bit disappointed in that, even though it's still like a decent amount of books. I'm a bit disappointed just because I know the reasons why it's happened as well. And yeah, but we're going to move past it because we'll concentrate on the good things, which is I read a total of 3,719 pages, which is about 1,000 less than I've read any other month this year. But I did still manage to read 120 pages per day, which is fantastic because I'm aiming to read at least 100 pages each day, or like on average anyway, once it balances out. So happy that I'm still at that number. And it does mean that for the year so far, I am at 147 pages per day, which is fantastic. So looking at the format of books that I read this month, I read one book completely as an ebook. That was an arc that I read. I listened to 2 audiobooks completely as audiobook, no reading along whatsoever. And then I read 4 that were a mixture of physical and audiobook, and 1 that was completely physical. Audiobooks did save me a little bit this month when I was starting to slump. They definitely helped, especially towards the end of the month with powering through the TBR. I will get to that in a minute. But yeah, audiobooks once again are the saviour. I love an audiobook. I do like reading sort of a mixture. I've mentioned this before. I like being able to sort of dip in and out of audiobook or physical depending on kind of what I'm doing at the time, where I'm at. When I'm sort of travelling to work, audiobooks are great. When I'm sat at home and there's nothing else sort of to distract me at all, I prefer a physical read. I like the fact that I can sort of choose between. And then we have got 4 young adult books and 4 adult books. So we are half and half completely this month, which is strange because I seem to have been recently either completely adult or completely young adult pretty much. And this month is a nice balance. So not much else to say about that. I think that is pretty much all the stats that you actually need to know, so let's just get into talking about the books and give you my thoughts on them, shall we? I've actually just realised I haven't given you all the stats yet because I haven't talked about star ratings. So for star ratings this month, I had 2 3 stars, 3 4 stars and 3 5 stars. So not the best reading month, but I did have some 5 stars, and I really loved the 5 stars that I had, so I will talk about those in a minute. Actually, the first book that I read this month was one of those 5 stars, so let's actually move on to that now, shall we? So the first book that I read this month was The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. This is the 2nd book in the 3rd trilogy in the Realm of the Eldlings. I cannot tell you a single thing about this book because, spoilers, But basically, the original series in the Realm of the Elderlings, the Farseer trilogy, follows a character called Fitz, who is bastard son of the Crown Prince, and he is left on his father's doorstep. His father quickly abdicates the throne. He is left to be raised by the stable master, and then he kind of catches the eye of the king, and the king decides to train him as an assassin because he's close enough to the nobility that he can get in amongst them, but also far enough away that he can be a little bit sneaky. That is, how many times have I said that synopsis now, really? That is the general sort of setup for these books. It's a lot more than that. There's 2 types of magic in this world. One that's all to do with like sort of other humans and using and interacting with other humans' minds and things like that. One that's to do with being in the minds of animals, and one of them is looked down on more than the other, and that is a big thing of this trilogy as well, is actually both of those different types of things. There are also dragons. Dragons are involved, which is fun. This series again also features dragons a little bit more than what we have had previously, and yeah, I really loved this trilogy. I am actually going to briefly talk about this one because I did read another book in this trilogy later on in the month, and I have thoughts on that one as well. But this one in particular was all set at the keep, so it's set at Bookkeep, which is a castle, and there was lots of sort of court politics and intrigue, and I just really loved it. There were lots of moments between Fitz and the Fool as well, which again, I just love seeing their relationship develop. There was so much stuff that I absolutely adored in this book, and yeah, to be honest, when I read this one I was like, this is my new all-time favourite in the Realm of the Elderlings. Keep that thought because I'm going to talk about another one later on, but of course I gave this one 5 stars. I really loved it. I love Fitz. I love him as character, so it was fun to be sort of back in his world. I said that when I read the first one in this trilogy. I'm just very happy to be reading from his perspective again, so yeah, 5 stars, of course it is. The next book that I read was How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. This is one I picked up in the half price sale from Waterstones at Christmas, and I'd heard good things about it. I was intrigued. I like a sort of dark comedy type book. This is about a girl who has never really had any connection with her father's side of the family. He didn't really want anything to do with her and her mother. He comes from money and he didn't really do much to support her and her mother, so they had a bit of a difficult time while she was growing up, and she decides that she's going to get revenge on him and his side of the family by killing them off one by one. And what's interesting about this is it's actually told in sort of 2 timelines. So in one of them, the main character is actually in prison, but she's been imprisoned for a crime that she didn't commit, and you're sort of figuring out what crime that is as it goes along. I really enjoyed this. It did have that sort of dark sense of humour that I wanted it to have. It was very good. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star because while I did enjoy all of the sort of just seeing her go around and being a murderer basically, which sounds really weird to say that you enjoy reading that perspective, but whilst that was all really fun to read, I did find that I just wanted to know a little bit more about sort of the motives and things like that. I wanted to know a little bit more about this character because it kind of jumped straight in with her already committing one of these crimes, and I just wanted to know a bit more about sort of the relationship with her father and all that type of stuff. So I really enjoyed it, but it just could have been fleshed out a little bit more for me. But no, a very good book. I like these sorts of books where it's sort of like a really dark humour that you know you shouldn't really enjoy reading, but there's something really intriguing about them. If anyone has any suggestions for any more books like this, please leave them down below because I really enjoyed this one. I feel like we're just sort of getting progressively lower with the ratings because my next one is my first 3-star of the month, and that is Cinderellas Dead by Kaylin Bayron. I read this one in like 24 hours and I was really enjoying it at the beginning, but I just got a little bit bored with it. So basically it is set in a world where Cinderella was real. Everyone has grown up on the sort of story of Cinderella, and what now happens is that every girl when they come of age gets to go to the ball, and they are picked by the men in the town, and it's supposed to be like in Cinderella's legacy, but the main character doesn't want to be part of that. She actually doesn't want to be involved with men at all. She would prefer to be involved with a woman, and it's kind of about what happens when she goes to the ball, and things kind of follow on from there. As you can imagine, there's things that are revealed, there's rebellion that happens, it's all that type of stuff. It's things you've read in a YA fantasy before, and I enjoyed parts of it, but I just felt like some of the pacing was strange. Like, it felt like stuff happened but nothing happened at the same time. Like, we had the ball, that was all really interesting, I was really intrigued, and then it felt like the main character and a couple of other characters kind of walked out of the city, got told a story, walked back to the city, and then had like a slightly anticlimactic finish to it. It was like, it didn't seem like there was much that actually happened along the way. It was just literally them walking somewhere, getting told some information, walk somewhere else, get told some more information, but no actual action happened. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I felt when I was reading it. So it wasn't a bad book. I am still intrigued to read other stuff by this author because I did like the actual writing style. Like I said, it was just a bit of the plot and the pacing that was off. I feel like this would have been better if it could have been fleshed out a little bit more and maybe made into a longer series, because everything had to kind of tie up in this one book. And this author's other book that I do want to read, which is This Poison Heart, is a duology, I believe. It's at least a duology because the sequel's coming out soon. So I think that one could be better because it won't have that thing of having to tie everything up at the end, because there is going to be more. So no, promising for sort of the first book that I've read by this author, but not as great as I wanted it to be. It's one of those things where 3 stars can be a good 3 star where it's more heading towards a 4, or it can be a lower 3 star where it's heading towards a 2. This was a good 3 star, because to be honest, at first I really thought it was going to be a 4, and then it just kind of lost me in the middle. So high 3 star, a high 3 star. It's okay though, because we're going to go back up to books that I loved this month, and we're going to go to my next 5 star, the only 5 star on this list that is not Robin Hobb, spoiler alert. The next one that I have to talk about is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I did not know what to expect with this because there was a lot of hype around this. I'm halfway through filming this video and my mum has just brought me a glass of gin because that is the mood of today. Cheers. So, back to The Atlas 6. I did not know what to expect with this book. It is a Book Talk darling. It was self-published last year and everyone went crazy over it. I never got the self-published version. By the time I was interested in it, it was impossible to get because this had been announced, which is obviously the traditional published version. I have got 2 copies. I was going to try and get 3, but I talked myself out of it. I have 2 copies of this. Well, the second one is being dispatched this week, I think. This is my sort of just regular standard edition. I was going to get the Waterstone special edition, but I do not like those sprayed edges. I'm going off on a tangent, but anyway, I didn't know what to expect with this because I wanted to love it because it's like magic that's based in science, which my little nerd heart adores. But I didn't know if it was just like hype and wouldn't actually be that good. I loved this book. Like, this is a very high 5-star book. It's basically about these 6 magicians who get chosen to go and sort of study at this library. Basically, it is like a secret society and it's a 2-year program, and once you have completed that, you get kind of initiated into the secret society and you are sort of like a guardian of the Library of Alexandria. But what they get told at the beginning of this is that while 6 of them are chosen, only 5 of them get to stay. So all the way through it, you're kind of wondering what's going to happen and why only 5 of them are going to get to stay, how they're going to pick which 5 of them it's going to be. And the main characters are kind of wondering that as well. So no one really trusts each other because you're not entirely sure what is going to happen. Like, at some point, someone's going to have to go. And what I really liked about this is that the way it's told, there is kind of time jumps. So it starts with them all being picked and then it sort of jumps around. So you miss chunks of time, but it's good because you don't quite know what happened in that time. So you don't know if something has gone on that should make you distrust one of the characters, because if you're just following them all and all their perspectives, you're not going to get that mystery. Whereas the way this sort of jumps around in time, I felt like it built the tension really well. And I did love the magic in here because I liked that it was science-based. I know that it has changed slightly from the self-pub version, and I feel like from what I've heard, the self-pub version might have been a little bit harder to understand the magic because it was so science-based. I think it's possibly been edited down a little bit to make it more palatable for sort of the general audience. But I really, really loved how it worked in this. I didn't find it sort of hard to understand at all. I don't have enough good things to say about this book. I just didn't want to put it down. I will probably reread it soon, to be honest. I really, really enjoyed it. Next up, I do not have this book to hold because it is an ARC that I got on NetGalley. It is My Mechanical Romance by, I'm going to have to get the name, bear with me 1 second, by Alexin Farrell Falmouth. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Actually, this author is Olivia Blake, the same author as The Atlas 6. I think I don't know which one is her actual name, which one's a pen name, but I didn't actually know that this was by the same author until I was reading the like author biography bit at the back of this book, and it says writing as Alexin, My Mechanical Romance, her debut YA novel, is being published. And I was like, I have an ARC of that on NetGalley. So I needed to read an ebook because I was doing magical readathon. I haven't talked about any readathons in this because I failed them a little bit, so we're just going to glaze over it. But it was doing magical readathon and they just read an ebook, so I thought, why not read that? Because I really liked her writing style, let's just stick with it. Right, so the things I liked in the Atlas 6 did not work as well in My Mechanical Romance. I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. It was a good book, but basically it's a YA romance. It is told from 2 characters' points of view. So you've got Teo and you've got Belle, and Belle is new to the school and she is a very sort of intelligent girl, but she doesn't really push herself too much, so she's not doing any of the like advanced classes or anything like that, and she gets pulled up for not doing an assignment properly, and she gets told she can make it up by joining this robotics club at this school, which Teo is kind of the leader of, and it's all about STEM, and which is great. Like, again, I loved the science aspect of this. There are battling robots in this. That was very, very fun to read. It was like Robot Wars, if anyone watched that programme. And yeah, I loved things like that. The problem is that basically it's supposed to be like an academic rivals to lovers type story, and obviously that grows throughout. But you know, when I said about this sort of time jumps and where that's told in the Atlas 6, it kind of happened in this as well. Like, basically the romance and the relationship was growing, and then they had like the first kiss, and then it jumped, and they'd been together for about a month already, and I'm just like, I have not seen any development of this relationship whatsoever, and I'm supposed to believe in it now. It just felt like that. It felt a little bit too jumpy, so I couldn't really get behind the characters. I did really like Belle as a main character. Teo, I felt like I didn't know quite as much. So yeah, bits of it that I absolutely loved. Though again, sort of the actual writing style of it I liked, just the pacing was a little bit strange. I think it's the type of pacing that worked really well for the Atlas 6 but doesn't work well for this, because they are 2 completely different types of stories. What works well for fantasy is not necessarily going to work well for contemporary, especially not when you've got a dark academia adult fantasy to a fluffy YA romance. Very different. But nevertheless, 4 stars. It's still enjoyable. It was a lower end 4 star. It was edging towards a 3, but there were things about it that saved it. Probably just how much I enjoyed the robots battling. It was fun. Let's go back to some 5 stars, shall we? I've already told you what this is, basically. It is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. So, as I said, I was reading Golden Fool, and I thought, it's my favourite of all the Fitz books. I loved it. Favourite of the Elderling books. And then I read this one, and I loved this book. So this is the last book in the 3rd trilogy of The Realm of the Elderlings. It was actually supposed to be the last book in The Realm of the Elderlings completely. Like, Robin Hobb did not plan on writing anymore after this. There are actually 6 more books now after this, which is a bit ridiculous. You don't plan on writing it anymore and then you write 6 more. No, it's not even 6, it's 7. I've just forgot. I keep thinking they're all trilogies and they're not. The dragon ones are 4. So yeah, we have a quartet and then we have another trilogy left to go after this. So this was originally supposed to be the last one, and it feels like the last book in this series. Like, it ties up a lot at the end. I will say there are some things, I'm not going to spoil it obviously, there are some things about the ending that I knew were going to happen, but I didn't love because reasons. I really can't say much about this book without spoiling it. But there are other things about this that like were heartbreaking but felt really appropriate. They were just... I liked seeing, I felt like Fitz got a lot of closure in this, which I liked. Like, I feel like he deserved a lot of the stuff that he got in this. Like, Fitz as a character I just want to protect, because he's gone through a lot, bless him, and I feel like there was some nice stuff that happened in this. I mean, he had a lot of pain in this as well. He's always going through pain. It's Fitz, what do you expect? But he did have some nice stuff that happened to him in this as well, so I'm happy for him. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I love Fitz. I love Fitz. I love the Fool. I love all the characters in this storyline. I do really hope that we see more of the live ship trader characters interact with these characters in the next sort of 2 series as well, because this is the thing with Robin Hobb, I really love her characters. Like, I got a little bit lost in live ship with the whole bits with the ships, because I'm just not a massive fan of like nautical books and things like that. But by the end of that trilogy, I loved all those characters as well. And then I'm so attached to these characters because it's been 6 books now with them that I want them all to interact. And I mean, I want them all to have happy lives, but that is an unrealistic expectation when it comes to Robin Hobb. Robin Hobb likes to write pain. That's all I have to say. Pain. Okay, so we have 2 more books to talk about. These are the last 2 that are on my TBR mash TBR, and I still had both of these to read on the 30th of March, and somehow I got it done. No idea how, but I did. Well, actually I do know how. audiobooks. That is the way forward. I actually didn't have the audiobooks this first one, so I'm just going to say a massive thank you to Megan from 12 Books a Day for gifting me this. We were talking about how much I needed to read, and they said that I had the audiobook for one of them and not for the other one, and it was my 1-year booktube anniversary on the day that I said this, and she said I'm happy to gift it to you as a booktube birthday present, and also because I'd helped her out with something for a TBR, which, I mean, she just helped me out with mine, so I was just like, okay, but she gifted it to me and I'm very, very grateful for it. So it was the audiobook of Little Fees by Margaret Owen. I listened to this one in one night. I do listen to audiobooks fairly quickly. I speak fast, so I have to have the audiobook at like the speed that I speak, which is pretty fast, to be honest. With this, I think it was about 2.9 maybe, but I gave this one 4 stars, first up. So this is a retelling of The Goose Girl. So a character called Vanya, who is the goddaughter of Death and Fortune, and she is also the servant to the princess Giselle, and then one day she ends up taking the princess's identity, and she kind of lives her life as a thief, and then one day she steals from the wrong person and ends up getting cursed that she will turn into gemstones. This sounds like a really strange story, but basically she has to repay some debts to stop this curse from happening, and there's a little bit of like a heist type storyline in here, and I, again, really, really love the characters in this one. That was my favourite thing about this. Like, all of the characters were good. Vanya is not necessarily a likeable main character. She does some really questionable stuff, but you can also understand where she's coming from, and I really, really loved her, actually. And I loved all the characters in this. My only issue, so the reason why it's 4 stars, not 5, is that I got a little bit lost to the plot in the middle. Like, I really, really loved the beginning. I got sucked into it straight away. I liked it by the end. I just got a little bit lost in the middle. But other than that, I really, really love this. I could potentially rate it higher on another read, because I will say, like, I did read this really quick. It might be better if I read it a bit slower. I don't know, but to be honest, I wasn't like powering through it quicker than I would do because I was trying to finish it early. Like, I was just actually quite absorbed in the story, so that's why. But then I just got like a little bit, I don't know, I lost my way with it a little bit in the middle. But like I said, I got back into it quite quickly, so it's the only reason why it's a 4 star, not a 5, is because you just threw me off just a tiny bit in the middle. But I did really, really love it. And then the last book that we have is my other 3-star read of the month. Unfortunately, I end with my more negative rating, and that is Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nian. This is the second book in, I don't know if the trilogy has a name actually, but it's a sequel to Girls of Paper and Fire. I read that one back end of last year, I think it was, and I wanted to carry on with the series. I liked this. It was, again, a higher 3 stars. It felt like a filler book. That is basically my main issue with it. So in the first book, you have character of Lay, set in a world where every year the king chooses girls to be his concubines, basically, and there's normally only 12 chosen, I think it is, and in that year there are 13 chosen because Leia gets chosen as well. But then she ends up in a relationship with one of the other girls, and again there is sort of like hidden rebellions and things like that. This is obviously set after the events of the first one, so I can't give too much away, but what it felt like, a lot of it was just kind of travelling around trying to gain support for the movement that was happening, and not very much else happening until the very end when there was a big climactic sequence, and it feels like it's probably setting up for an exciting finale, but this was just a bit meh in the middle. I was just kind of waiting for something to happen actually in this book rather than just to set up the next book, if that makes sense. It was literally only in like the very end pages. I mean, there was other stuff that happened. I mean, there were some character deaths halfway through as well, but it did just feel like a lot of it was just sort of plodding along so that we could have a good third book, which hopefully the third book will be good. I do have that one as well, so should be reading that one soon because I don't want to wait too long between them so I lose my way. But yeah, it was fine. It just suffered from middle book syndrome, which, you know, understandable I suppose, but I just wish it was a little bit better. Right. So this is everything that I read, well, this plus an ebook, is everything that I read during the month of March. It doesn't look like that bad of a stack, really. Like I said, I know I slumped. Like, I know that I could have read more, but I had like a week where I think I read like 100 pages total during that week. So, yeah. But my TBR from April is looking interesting. So hopefully my reading will be better, because if I slump next month, it is going to be difficult. But anyway, I'm happy at least that I got some 5-star reads. Like, there's 3 books that I absolutely adored in this stack. So even though it wasn't quite as much as I would like it to be, I still read some good things. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know how your reading went during the month of March. Let me know what your favourite thing was you read last month. And I will see you guys soon with a new video. Bye.